and welcome to our third lab for the Spring VLI Biology Online Labs. And my name is Ms. Copay. This week we're going to be learning about natural selection and doing a lab that demonstrates the principles of natural selection and how populations change over time. We're going to be using one product that you have to get from the store. It's not provided in your kit this week. It is Teddy Grahams. And you need both the chocolate variety and a vanilla or honey. Either way, but you need a dark variety and a light variety. We are going to be using both of them in your lab. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with like the, bunny variety or another variety, because I'm going to show you that there is variation in this population that you might not have even observed before. I'm going to actually walk you through that today. But to kick us off for this lab, I want to refer back to a case study that helped us with our understanding of population evolution, population genetics, and that is out of England during the Industrial Revolution. And you may or may not have heard about the peppered moth story, about how industrialization and use of coal in the cities caused massive pollution that led to changes in the peppered moth population. And so if you haven't heard that story, I linked to a video in this folder, and you should examine how that population of light moths changed into a population of dark moths due to the pollution covering the trees and leading to some individuals being more susceptible to predation because they were less camouflaged by the suit. Anyhow, so in that example of the peppered moths, we're going to be taking that same kind of concept and demonstrating it today with our Teddy Grahams. And if you look at the Teddy Grahams here, what you'll notice on the box is something that I never noticed until I was doing this lab, is that each Teddy Graham comes in one of two varieties. It has its arms up or its arms down. And so that's going to be an important component to this lab, and say both of the varieties have that. But that's why you can't really substitute this out with another product. So you really need to use the Teddy Grahams for that purpose. You could make your own, I guess, with paper and cutting them out. But hopefully you'll be able to use them as a snack if you keep your hands clean. Okay, so in addition to having those Teddy Grahams, you're going to need two bowls here to represent our populations here. What we're going to be walking through here in your lab manual is lab 15. So on your Buzz landing page, you're going to see a reference to this lab in your assignment for this week. It's also going to link you out to those two videos, one on the peppered moth and another on the review for natural selection. And then we're going to walk through and look at how these populations change over time. To start with, you're going to count out 10 of each of the dark colored graham crackers and the light colored Teddy Grahams. And that's going to be your initial starting population. And then you're going to look at how this population changes over time as some individuals are eaten or preyed upon and removed. So in the first generation here, as you read through, and you're going to follow this population through 10 generations. And you're going to be keeping track in your data table. You're going to be keeping track here in your lab data page how many individuals you have at each generation. And so here we have our dark bears and our light bears from generation 1 down to generation 2. Starting with 10, the first generation, it tells us that some individuals are prone to predation. And so if you read through here, generation 1, it says that 5 individuals are removed from the population. The individuals that are removed is because the dark bears are more susceptible. So you're going to just randomly select 5. And it's important to be random and not look at the bears that you're selecting, because it turns out that only bears that have their arms up can reproduce. They're like, here, I'm here, okay? So once you've killed off these bears, they've been eaten, this is your remaining population. But now you need to go in and you need to figure out how many brown bears have their hands up. And so in mine, I have 2 individuals who have my hands up. The other 4, they survived, but they didn't reproduce. So again, in a population evolution, only certain individuals are going to successfully reproduce. And those are the ones that are going to contribute to the changing population over time. So here you're going to add a teddy bear to indicate that they reproduced. So you're going to, again, randomly go back to your box. Don't go back to the ones you discarded, especially because you're going to see as over time, the ones you discard are going to be more with their hands down than with their hands up. So make sure you go back to your box to reproduce. So we're going to add those individuals back. And then we're going to count up our white teddy bears, and we're going to do the same thing. And we're going to count how many have their arms up, and they likewise will reproduce. And that population here is the end point for generation 1. So you're going to add up all the teddy bears that you have, the individuals that were left behind, the 15, plus those that reproduced. And that will be your population. And that's generation 1. Then you're going to read the instructions here for generation 2. And generation 2 says that no new environmental incidents occurs, so the bears just reproduce. So here again, the only individuals that get to reproduce are those with their arms up. And remove all the bears that have their arms down. So you're going to follow these instructions here to record the number of bears that you have after the end of generation 2. Okay? And you're going to follow this through, and the instructions for each generation and what you're doing to the population, who's surviving, who's not surviving. And after you've completed the data table, you're going to then graph your results. And so it has you graphing your results. You're going to use 2 different colors to represent your dark and your light, and you're going to have an X and Y axis here. And so on this axis, your number of bears is going to be on the X axis. And on the Y axis, we're going to have our generations. 1 through 10. And then you're going to use 2 different colors to indicate the dark or the light bears. And so you're measuring each type of bear. And what you want to see, you're going to measure out the number of bears. And then you're going to have a legend that's going to label which color bear is which. So you would have the light bear and versus the dark bear. And you're going to do that for each generation. So generation 2, you'll have the same thing. You'd have a data point here for your light bear, or your dark bear and your light bear. And so you're going to then find what kind of trend you see over the generations for both the light bear and the dark bear and the population as a whole. Remember to take pictures of yourself doing your work with your product. Complete the lab report and submit along with those pictures your completed lab questions from your lab manual. So I hope that helps, and have a great time working with your teddy bears. See you next week.